Britain likes to tell itself it's still a big country. Not the biggest, not the boss, but still one of the adults. And for a long time, that story worked because the system around Britain did the heavy lifting. The US did security, Europe did proximity, global trade did growth. Britain got to specialize in services and finance and pretend that was the same thing as strength. And then you get moments like this. Keir Starmer goes to Beijing. First British Prime Minister to do it in about 8 years. Not a phone call, not a quiet meeting on the sidelines, a full visit. Photos, smiles, big language about resetting ties. That's the tell. Countries don't do this when they feel safe. They do it when the room gets smaller. Because the honest reality is Britain is stuck between two forces that don't care about British pride. One force is American pressure. Pick a lane on China. The other force is British economics. We need growth, we need markets, we need deals. And when those two forces collide, you don't get a noble stand, you get a trip to Beijing. And look at what came out of it, because this part matters. This wasn't poetry, it was transactional. China agrees to visa-free travel for British citizens for short stays. Scotch whiskey tariffs get cut. They talk cooperation on irregular migration information, the kind of stuff tied to small boats and networks and enforcement. This is not symbolic diplomacy. This is plumbing. This is, we can help each other if we stop pretending we hate each other. Now here's where people misread it. They think this is Britain getting closer to China, like it's a romance story. It's not. This is Britain buying options because the American option is starting to feel more conditional than it used to. And I don't mean America is leaving. I mean the price of relying on America is rising. The US is noisier, more unpredictable, more transactional itself. And when the security provider starts acting like an insurance company that might change your premium at any moment, you don't cancel the policy. You start shopping for a second one. That's what this is. China understands this better than anyone because China doesn't need you to love them. China just needs you to need them. Xi doesn't have to convince Britain of anything. He just has to sit still and let the math get worse in London. Slower growth, higher energy, tighter budgets, fewer easy wins. And then, one day, the British Prime Minister shows up asking for a sophisticated relationship. And yes, Starmer raised human rights issues. Jimmy Lai was mentioned. It gets said out loud because it has to be said out loud. But you can always tell what's real by what moves first. Trade moved first. Travel moved first. Cooperation moved first. The moral language comes along like a passenger, not like the driver. If that sounds cynical, good. It should. That's what state behavior looks like when the easy era ends. And here's the part most people miss, and it's the part that should annoy everyone, even if they like Starmer. Britain is trying to do something that only works when the global system is stable. It's trying to be economically intertwined with China while still being strategically sheltered by the United States. It's trying to sell into China and still act like it's in the Western camp when the West is actively arguing about what that even means now. That isn't diplomacy. That's juggling. And juggling is fine until the music speeds up. Because the moment Washington decides to tighten the screws on tech, on investment, on supply chains, Britain gets put in the middle. And the middle is not a place you get to live forever. The middle is where you get squeezed until you pick. This is why the visit matters. Not because Britain loves China now. Not because Xi won some debate. But because Britain is behaving like a country that's starting to realize the post-1990s world is not coming back. And it's trying to adapt without admitting it's adapting. It's like working for a company that keeps posting record profits while quietly cutting staff and freezing wages. Nobody has to explain what's happening. Everyone feels it. People stop believing the slogans and start watching the incentives. That's where Britain is. Publicly, values, alliances, stability. Privately, access, growth, survival. And the most uncomfortable thing about this whole story is that it's not unique to Britain. If London can walk into Beijing and do business again, other capitals will decide they can too. Not because it's moral, because it's rational. And once that becomes normal, you don't go back to the clean story, the one where the West acts like a single block and China is just the rival. You move into the messier story, where everybody trades anyway, everybody spies anyway, everybody hedges anyway, and the alliance becomes something you say, not something you live. That's what changed this week. Not the tariffs, not the visas, the posture. Britain went to Beijing because the system is getting harder, and the first thing countries do when the system gets harder is they stop pretending.